Welcome back to the 76 Capital Sports Leadership Show. My name is Wayne Kimmel, managing partner of 76 Capital, the sports tech venture capital company. On this show, I interview top sports entrepreneurs, athletes, and executives who are shaping and many times changing the sports business industry. You can subscribe to our show on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our 76 Capital website. Welcome to the 76 Capital Sports Leadership Show. Today, my guests are Josh Goldstein and Robert Jakobi. They are the founders of Courtside Sports Advisors, the premier boutique sports marketing and advisory firm headquartered in New York City. It was founded by Josh and Robert, and they specialize in forging strong corporate partnerships across multiple sports. We're also going to talk about a really exciting event that's coming up. The Front Office Sports and Courtside Sports Advisors are hosting an exclusive event in Miami on November 6th to bring together the leaders of the sports industry, the finance industry, and the media industry ahead of the UIM E1 World Championship, which is the world's first all-electric powerboat racing series. Josh and Robert, please. Excited to have you on the show, and welcome to our 76 Capital Sports Leadership Show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Wayne.
Really excited to have you guys. I mean, it's been amazing to see the growth of Courtside Sports Advisors and what you've been doing there. And maybe that's a great place to start. Share with our audience, a little bit of the background of how you guys built this.
Yeah, look, I mean, thanks for the introduction, Wayne. And, I think Robert and I have been very, very fortunate to have started this business a couple of years ago and really seen it grow over the last couple of years. Robert and I have known each other for a very long time, have worked on trying to find a way to work together. Robert comes from a very strong entrepreneurial background. I come from an investment background, and we've always wanted to do something in sports. We found a really great opportunity alongside with the E1 all-electric sports boat racing series, which I'll let Robert give some intro on in a minute. But, we started Courtside Sports Advisors effectively as a way to work with up-and-coming and emerging sports teams and leagues. Our primary focus at the outset was on partnerships, but that has really grown into a much more all-encompassing advisory role, where we found that a lot of these smaller upstart sports teams really don't have the resources to bring all of the financial and investment capabilities that go with building a business. If you look at a lot of the founders of these teams, they come from a really strong sports background, or they come from a really interesting business background, but they don't really have both of them. And so where we kind of have come in and really added a lot of value is bringing our investment and our entrepreneurial backgrounds to really help these teams grow. And that goes from everything from business plan, strategizing, execution, marketing, partnerships, investments, anything along the revenue side of things. That's where we really try and add a lot of value. As we've been doing that as well, we've really seen a great amount of investment opportunities. And I think that's really what Courtside is focused on becoming in the future, is a much more all-encompassing advisory business, but also incorporating the investment side of things in that. We think there's a lot of really exciting opportunities in the sports world right now. We can kind of get into that a little bit later, but that's really what our focus is on now. And a part of what we're doing with Front Office Sports in this panel in a couple of weeks is to try and bring together the people that are working with emerging sports leagues, that are in the sports industry, investing in companies, investing in teams, and people on the media side who can kind of bring it all together. And so we're really excited about that event coming up, and really fortunate to have had this opportunity to partner with Front Office Sports to bring this vision to life.
Well, that's really amazing, and it's really exciting, the fact that and I appreciate the fact that you've given me the opportunity to be one of the speakers on November 6th down in Miami at this event that you're doing with Front Office Sports. And Robert, I mean, you guys have been, at this, working with some great, different clients. Love to hear, your take on where your business is today, and where, Josh has said it's where you're taking things.
Absolutely. So I think, as Josh said, we been focusing a lot on emerging sports, because if you look at some of the big sports in the US, like the NFL or MLB, it's very hard to compete with the big agencies like CAA or William Morris when it comes to sponsorships, etc. And so we wanted to carve out a niche for ourselves. And so we've got obviously extensive relationships across many sports, but one sport where we've been focused on quite a bit over the past 2 years has been E1, which is the event that you're going to be coming to in Miami in November. You're going to see your first race. And the big deal that Courtside did for Team Miami was bringing Azimuth Yachts, the Italian yacht manufacturer, into the team as a sponsor. And it wasn't just a deal that benefited the team, it's also benefited the league because, Azimuth is considered one of the most, luxurious, well-known yacht brands in the world, based in Italy, very high-end, has a huge kind of like brand presence online, bigger actually than E1, which is obviously an emerging sport. And so the deal that we did, which we signed kind of at the beginning of last year, was very beneficial for the team and for the league, and that kind of like set Courtside on a great path. Kind of, from there, as you know, when you're launching a business, you need one deal that kind of really gives you that credibility and that track record. And I think bringing Azimuth has really helped Courtside build that kind of like track record and credibility. And obviously we've gone from there. And as Josh mentioned, we're looking at a lot of other interesting things now, but that's kind of how we started. That was our first deal. A lot of work's gone into it. Azimuth are a big company with a very big marketing team with lots of demands. We've had to, Josh and I, really be involved on a day-to-day basis there to keep them happy. Their goal with this sponsorship was to sell more boats to their clients. And so for them, E1 made a lot of sense because the crowd that go to these races is very, it's a high net worth group of people. They have this VIP hospitality, which is similar to, say, the Paddock Club in Formula One called the Ocean Club, where you have on average maybe 500-600 people at each race. But these are C-suite executives. These are celebrity team owners. These are government officials, royal families. And so for Azimuth, it was a perfect way for them to get their brand out there to, potential new clients. So that's kind of like one thing to highlight. I don't know, Josh, if you want me to go into anything else, but
well, Robert, just let me interrupt for a second.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to sort of break down, what happens at a E1, powerboat race. Like what goes on there?
It's very similar to Formula One, and you've got, say, qualifying, on the first day and then the race on the second day. There's a couple of differences. One, it's a 2-day event, not a 3-day event. Formula One, as you know, is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. E1, depending on the weekend, can either be a Friday, Saturday or a Saturday, Sunday event. There's 9 teams, so similar size to, say, Formula One. But the big difference, say, with other motorsports is that there is a male and female driver. The sport is very focused on diversity, kind of gender diversity, but also on sustainability. And then around the race, you've got obviously the hospitality, the Ocean Club hospitality that you have access to always for the race. And then they also have it available sometimes for qualifying. So it can either be 2-day hospitality or 1-day hospitality, depending on the race. And then, but a lot of the kind of guests will come for the race, a bit like Formula One. A lot of people don't go for the Friday, Saturday, they just go for the Sunday race. And it's obviously it's a half a day event, typically in the afternoon, from say maybe 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock. You've got races going on. There's in between the races, you've got, say, panels going on inside the hospitality and other entertainment, very high-end food, etc. It's a great way to network and meet people. And then in the evenings, typically they'll always have a gala dinner, a black tie gala dinner, either the day before the race or after the race. So they try and create that kind of environment that you have, say, in Formula One in Miami or in Monaco, where it's not just about the racing, it's about the events around it in the evening. So I don't know. Yeah.
I was gonna say, going back real quick on the race itself.
Yeah.
If you're in the Ocean Club, right? Can you see the race? Is it right in front of you in the ocean, or how?
Yes.
How does it?
Yes. Depending on the location, but for example, Monaco, the Ocean Club was inside the Yacht Club, and the Yacht Club sits, on in the harbor, and you can see the race from the Yacht Club. It's not like, say, Sail GP, where the racing is in the middle of the ocean. The
Right.
racing is taking place, very close to land, and the hospitality is built, with maybe 50, 100 yards away from kind of where the racing takes place. So you see it, you're right there. You're on top of the garage where the boats are, where they're parked, and then they leave to go out and race. So it's built kind of with fans getting access, close access in mind.
And let me just kind of just for a little bit of context, so E1 was started by a guy by the name of Alejandro Agag, who started Formula E, which was the world's first all-electric, kind of Formula One competitor. He has always kind of viewed electric mobility as the future, not just of sport, but of transportation, and has been a really big proponent of sustainability, and saw a really unique opportunity here to fill a void in the powerboat racing space, which didn't really have even many leagues in itself on the gas powered stuff, but he saw this as a really cool space just for sports and for racing, but also as a great opportunity to further promote not just the sustainable aspect, but really actually pioneer electric boating. They created this very unique special boat called the Race Bird that is designed specifically for the E1 series, but are now trying to bring that into much more of a commercial use as well. So that's a unique innovation that they're actually going to bring. We're going to see that on the water going forward. Alejandro is a great marketer and saw a really cool idea of bringing these teams together and having each team owned by a celebrity. So we work very closely with E1 as a series, but also very closely with E1 Team Miami. Team Miami is owned by Marc Anthony, and some of the other owners in the league are Tom Brady, LeBron James, Will Smith, Rafa Nadal, Didier Drogba. The list goes on. It's a really very, very cool group of people. And the series itself races across the world. So you see races in Jeddah, Doha, Monaco, Venice, Miami, amongst kind of other iconic locations on the water. As Robert said, like all of these races are right in the harbor. And so it is very cool to see for people that are in those locations, but you also have the Ocean Club, which is a really cool, very, very unique place in itself, because you have some of the world's most famous celebrities, as well as business leaders, executives, royal family. I mean, it really is a great amalgamation of individuals. And they're there for this 2-day event, which is taking place right in front of you on the water with these incredibly high-powered all-electric boats, racing 4 or 5 in a row, and battling out to kind of win these really very cool races in iconic locations. And we're very much a big part of trying to grow the league as a brand and as well as kind of its audience. And I think our experience with Azimut, with working with Team Miami, not just on the sponsorships, but on all different aspects of their growth, has really brought us to where kind of we are now, which is to say, emerging leagues is a really unique space that does not have a huge amount of players in the same way that I think, as Robert mentioned earlier, we're not trying to compete with the CAAs or the WMEs of the world. We're trying to help these other companies that don't have the ability to work with the CAAs or the WMEs of the world because they're just not there yet in their life cycle.
It's fascinating to hear about the race, and it was really helpful, guys, to share sort of what it looks like. So in many cases, going to an E1 or an F1 race, I should say, you see maybe that curve or that turn or whatever, and that's all that's straight away,
Yeah.
right? In this case, you're seeing the race in front of you, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not like you get 1 second every kind of 5 minutes. This is for the entirety of the time right in front of you, and you're not competing with the other side of the track. You get to see it all at once.
I think one of the things that we did as well through Courtside, which I think was very well received by the league, was, and we started this in Dubrovnik in the summer when we had a race there, and then in Monaco, is Azimuth have brought their boats to the race for the guests, the VIPs, to experience the racing, not just from the hospitality, but from a boat parked in the water in the middle of the track. And we did it in Monaco in quite a big way with 4 boats. And it was, that really augmented the viewer experience beyond just what you would see sitting in the hospitality. And so, we've been very involved in kind of on the experiential side and on the activation side here with Azimuth. And we're doing that also in Miami, where we're going to have hopefully maybe 8 to 9 boats that will be there to host VIPs and guests. So there's basically now 2 ways to experience viewing the race. One is from the hospitality, and as I mentioned and Josh mentioned, you're very close, you see everything. It's not like Formula One where you're just seeing one corner, but the other way now is to actually be in a boat in the middle of the track on the water, because obviously we want to take things to the next level if we can and really augment people's experiences.
Well, that's certainly an innovation from a fan perspective, right? To actually be
Correct.
right there. That's really, really amazing. I mean, so you mentioned earlier, Josh talked about some of the celebrity owners and the league itself, and I'm assuming this is like a home game for Team Miami.
Yes, the Miami race is our home race. We, as Josh mentioned, we partnered with Marc Anthony, the singer, Team Miami. But what we did very differently, or what the team did very differently to other teams, was instead of calling the team Team Anthony, so Tom Brady's team, for example, is called Team Brady. Rafael Nadal's team is called Team Rafa. We realized that Miami is bigger than any celebrity, and we wanted to build the team around the city of Miami versus around Marc Anthony. And, no disrespect to Marc, he's actually the most vested of all of the celebrities with Team Miami. He's very involved. But at the end of the day, you can't rely on a celebrity to build both the sport and the teams. And this is something that Josh and I talk about all the time. How are E1 going to take the brand to the next level and really build brand awareness? And they can't rely on the celebrities to do it, because Tom Brady, for example, has got 10 different business ventures. He might post about, 1 or 2 races, and he might come to 1 or 2 races a year, but that's not, the team can't rely on that to build their team. So we've actually been very focused, Team Miami and Courtside, on building the brand in the city of Miami. And so some of the partnerships that we've helped with Courtside have included, local clubs and places in Miami to really get the brand out there. And I think that's what separates Team Miami from some of the other teams, because we're not reliant on a celebrity like Marc Anthony, like Team Brady is.
Well, I think that's a really smart thing that you guys have done, and you guys have worked with a number of other pretty significant clients. I mean, I know you guys talk about yourselves as a boutique, marketing advisory firm, but you've had some really high level clients over the last year or so.
Yeah, look, we've been super lucky in the sense that we've had a really great opportunity to work with teams like, across the sporting world, but teams like Nashville Soccer Club, New York Red Bulls. We've worked with some USL teams. We've worked with some, actually, even outside of the sports world, we've worked with Palm Tree Crew on their music festivals. I think, we kind of set out and said, we're relatively new to the sports world, and one of the things that we really didn't expect was just how great it was to, once you have kind of small success in this space, how it really built on itself. And we've been really lucky and fortunate enough to work with teams, that are more established, whether they're the MLS teams or, some of the USL. We worked with a team called Brooklyn FC in the USL, and we really came in at the beginning, much like we did with E1 Team Miami. We were probably, the 3rd member of the team. We weren't even technically a part of the team. We were brought in as consultants and advisory on the advisory side, but they had 2 people full time, and we really worked with them from the start to when they started putting the products on the field, and throughout all of that growth. And I think what we have learned and what we have seen from all of this is that it really is a very, very special space where if you are getting in at the beginning, you're really kind of in the trenches with these guys. And I think we've learned a huge amount from those experiences that we are able to use both on, helping to activate our partnerships that we bring into our clients, as well as, helping not just the teams grow, but the leagues that they're working with, helping them grow their fan bases, helping them grow their revenues, helping them attract new investors. And I think that to us is kind of what this is really all about. We love the sponsorship stuff. We love working with the partners and helping activate these partnerships, but we're really not just looking to be Courtside who does partnerships. We're looking to be Courtside who does all the advisory stuff, who also now is focused on the investment side. And I think, part of that comes from that experience, but we really do view ourselves as kind of a one-stop shop for all of these up-and-coming teams and leagues. And we're really excited about what kind of it's going to be the next aspect of what we're building here, which is to actually take an ownership role in some of these, whether it's the teams themselves, whether it's with leagues, or with many of the sports-related businesses that will benefit from the growth of the sports industry as a whole.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting to hear what you guys have planned for Courtside Sports Advisors, and I'd love to dig in a little bit on what's going to be happening on November 6th at the front office event that you're doing alongside of them, and who are some of the speakers that will be there, and how's the day going to go?
Absolutely. So I think just taking a step back, the reason why we decided, Josh and I, to put this panel together was because, being a new company, Courtside, like any brand, you need to build brand awareness. And we felt if we could partner up strategically with someone like a Front Office Sports to run a panel, it would raise great brand awareness for Courtside, the people that we'd be able to obviously host, people like yourself, Wayne, and obviously we're delighted you're speaking. But it would be a way for us also to see maybe some interesting deal flow, because as Josh said, we think there's some really interesting investment opportunities right now in the emerging sports space. So Josh and I came up with the idea of running a panel, and it also kind of, the inspiration was seeing what Formula One Miami did when they brought F1 3 years ago to Miami, 3.5 years ago now, where Wall Street Journal did a very successful business panel event in the days leading up to the race. And they had, 250 guests. They had team owners, drivers, and people from the world of Formula One speaking. So we wanted to kind of replicate that with Front Office Sports in the run up to the E1 Miami race. And there's going to be a lot of people in Miami. We've obviously got half a day set at the Moore. The Moore is a private members club who've been very gracious to give us the space. They're actually a partner of Team Miami. And so they've been a great partner of the team. So we have a great venue. Front Office Sports are running the event for us. And as you know, when you spoke in the Hamptons, they do these great events around major sporting events like Super Bowl, Las Vegas, F1, etc. So we couldn't have been more delighted to have partnered with them. And, we're still finalizing details. As things get done in a day or two before in terms of speakers and sponsors. But we've got some great speakers kind of committed from the world of sports and well-known people. And the plan is to have 4 different panels. Maybe Josh wants to go into detail on what those are, but we also want to have some great networking in between the panels, over cocktails and things. And so I think it will be a great afternoon. It's not an all-day event. It's for 4.5 hours on Thursday the 6th.
Yeah, so I mean, just kind of taking what Robert said and just kind of giving a little bit more context on the actual event. We're obviously doing this in the lead up to the E1 Miami GP, which is really going to be a really exciting race, and really excited to be a part of that build up to that race. So we're calling it the Future of Sport event. And, obviously we've been very focused on the emerging sports world, but there's also a lot of really great stuff that Front Office Sports has been able to do in terms of bringing together some unique personalities and people to be a part of the panel. So the panel itself, as Robert said, it's a half-day panel. It's going to start with a panel on E1. So Alejandro Agag and his partner Roddy will be speaking a little bit about E1, talking about the growth of that sport as well as kind of the sustainability aspect of their story. We're going to have a panel that will talk from there kind of on sustainability and innovation in sport to kind of talk about how a lot of the technologies and things that are going into the sports world really bring into tie into kind of a lot of the sustainability push around the world. We're going to then go from there, have a panel talking about emerging sports leagues and investment in sport. And that's where the panel that Wayne, you'll be on, that really will be talking about the changing sports landscape and how some of the institutionalization of the sports world as a asset class is really benefiting not just the NFL, the MLB, the NBA ownerships and the valuations there, but the trickle down effect that has across the sporting world. And from there, we're going to then talk about celebrity ownership in sport. And so we're going to have some really great celebrity names coming in talking about their ownership in the different sports leagues across all different types of sports. I'd love to sit here and announce some big names, but obviously we have to wait for a couple of people to formally commit. But we will have some really great announcements in the next couple of days or weeks with some pretty big names that we're very excited for.
Well, I'm super excited. It's going to be a really great event. It's the Moore is a heck of a place to have the event. So really smart. And if anyone's out there, November 6th, get down to Miami to go to this event. So, as we start to wrap up here on our 76 Capital Sports Leadership Show, it's been so great to have, Josh, you on the show along with Robert. And, Josh, we've known each other for a long time. Robert as well. I mean, it's just it's great to see the success you're having. So excited to hear about the future plans for Courtside Sports Advisors, and just it's really it's amazing to see sort of the growth of the overall sports industry, and maybe just sort of take a second to share your thoughts on the industry as a whole, right? I mean, you just mentioned, Josh, really this idea of that, sports is an asset class today. From your perspective, where do you see it now and where's it going?
Yeah, so let me just take one step back and just kind of sing your praises for a second, Wayne. When you and I have obviously known each other for a very long time. I remember when you were really just starting with 76 Capital, before investment in sports or venture capital in sports was ever really a thing. And I've seen the sports industry grow over the last 15 to 20 years, and you've been a really big part of that growth. And I think where we're coming in today is at an inflection point in the sports world as a whole. For a very long time, ownership in sports was kind of seen as a trophy asset as opposed to an institutional asset, and that's beginning to change. You're seeing that with NFL opening up to private equity ownership. You're seeing that with the valuations in some of these NBA and NFL teams. I mean, even NHL today just coming out with a $2 billion minimum investment to get a team now. Those are numbers that not many people can afford. And so in order for that growth to sustain and to continue to grow, you have to really look at different types of owners. And it's no longer just individuals, but now it's funds. And these funds don't look at these things as trophy assets. They look at them as investments, and they need to get their returns on them. And what that means for the rest of the sports world, great that the NFL is selling teams for $10 billion. But what that means for the rest of the sports world is that there are a lot more investment opportunities, because you're not going to make a 3x on an NFL team necessarily, but you can make a 3x on a smaller up and coming sports league or team, right? So SailGP, you look at stuff in volleyball, you look at E1, you look at some of these other sports leagues that are really seeing a lot of growth. Our view is we have a great opportunity to be a part of that growth, whether that's investing in the teams or the leagues directly, or the sports businesses that serve these leagues. And I think that there's a real trickle-down effect to the investments that are going into the larger leagues, because they really do, and this goes to the sports business industry, is that you're really seeing a lot of these companies that serve the sports world that were kind of seen as secondary types of investments to software or to technology or whatever it might be that have been getting a lot of VC dollars. Now these guys are seeing a lot more revenue growth as a result of the sports world seeing a lot more investment. And not just so the revenue's growing, but you're seeing multiples start to expand as well. So the valuations of these companies are starting to go up. And we think that this is a really great point to get in and start investing with some of these companies. So, our view is that we're at the very kind of early stage of a multi-inning game where, yeah, we're kind of past the first few innings, but now we have a great opportunity to kind of get in before it gets too late, and we're very excited about that. And I think we see this, the sports world is just kind of really becoming a lot more I don't want to say respected because that doesn't give it the credit that it deserves, but it's seen a lot more interest from many, many investors that typically would have not been invested in this type of industry.
I think, Josh, you summarized it brilliantly. So nothing further to add there, other than the fact that it's kind of a privilege for us both to be working in the industry. We have a passion for it. I don't know if we really touched upon that at the beginning, but that's what kind of Josh and I obviously had a personal connection, but family connection, and we've known each other for years. But we decided to start Courtside because we had a deep passion for sports. I grew up in a sporting family with a father that's worked in sports management for 40 years. Josh had a deep love of sports, and so we wanted to take that passion and build it into a business. And I think it's so important when you're launching something, especially a startup, whatever that industry is, that the founders have a passion for it. And I don't think there's any other industry I'd want to be in, and I know that's the same for Josh. And as Josh just said, we're at such an interesting kind of juncture now in sports with all these opportunities. There couldn't be a better time to do what we're doing, but we both have a deep passion, and I think that really, really helps.
Oh, well, that's certainly a huge thing in the sports industry. And, one of the big things that we talk about on our 76 Capital Sports Leadership Show is leadership and coaches and mentors. I mean, Robert, is there someone, and Josh, I'd love to hear from both of you. Like, is there someone in your life that's really inspired you and made you a better person and made you kind of like, the person that you are today and it's going to help you really build, the future of Courtside?
I mean, there's lots of people, family people, non-family people from my previous industry, which is, in food and beverage and consumer. But I would say specific to Courtside, and someone I think that's had a huge impact on me, was my father's biggest client and his closest friend, who is considered the greatest racing driver of all time, Ayrton Senna, the Brazilian driver. I have his helmet right here. I think I was a kid when he passed away, sadly, in '94. I was 9 years old, but I remember the day when it happened, but I also remember spending a lot of time with him and learning from my father, not just what an amazing driver Ayrton was, but what an amazing businessman he was, the passion he had, how popular he was in his homeland of Brazil. He's a national icon there. He's considered the biggest star alongside Pele, even today. And I think just, he's had such an impact on my life. And obviously I have a passion for Formula One, but like that was someone that really, as a young child, someone that kind of I remember, and his kind of legend lives on, but that would be someone for me.
Josh?
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm really bad with these questions because I freeze in the moment. But what I will tell you is that there are a couple of people that to me have really kind of stood out, and it's not that they've done anything in particular to directly mentor me, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's really seen their kind of success in changing fields. So Robert and I both have come from non-sports backgrounds or non-traditional sports backgrounds, and we started this in our 30s, and it's a very tough thing to just take a completely different pivot in your career. And I've been lucky enough to have some people that have really, really been helpful in understanding what it's like to change careers and to build a business from scratch in a world that you're not in. And I think that to me is really been the most helpful thing. in really navigating this very, very unique but very different landscape that is the sports world.
Well,
Well
guys,
said, Josh.
yeah, really great. I mean, I'm so excited to see both you guys on November 6th down in Miami at the Moore, at the event that you're putting on with Front Office Sports. And again, thanks for the invitation to be down there to speak at the event with you. Really excited for everything that you're doing at Courtside Sports Advisors, what you've done so far and what you're going to go do. The future is certainly bright across the sports industry. This asset class of sports is just continuing to grow on a daily basis as you guys reporting the latest news of things that have been happening across the industry. Probably in this time when we're doing this podcast, more news has been breaking. I mean, that's what's so exciting about the overall industry today. And it's great to have you on our 76 Capital Sports Leadership Show, and I'll see you guys soon.
We really appreciate it, Wayne.
you for
Thank you
having
so
us.
much for having us, and we're excited to see you in Miami in a couple of weeks.
On behalf of the entire 76 Capital team, thank you for joining us for this edition of our Sports Leadership Show. Please remember to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast network or on the 76 Capital website. You can also explore the hundreds of episodes we've produced over the past several years on those same networks. And as always, go out there and make it happen.